Hello, everybody. It is Access Arcadia here, and here is the second episode of Arcadia 1, the podcast where I talk about anime, movies, music at some point, and whatever interests me and that I wish to share about with you guys. A quick disclaimer before I begin. Any and all opinions I have, again, are my own opinions. Any negative thoughts or comments that you wish to share or just put out there, by all means, that's fine. But also respect my views and opinions on any of the topics that I will be discussing. I will try to be as unbiased and very neutral about everything, but I will have a moment or two where I will speak my own word, disregarding that notion. So, with that in mind, let's begin. So, on the first topic of the podcast, we will be going through movie quickies, where I will quickly discuss the films that I watched throughout the month, and just give you a quick little review about how I felt with the film, and what I think could have been potentially changed, or what I liked. So, first one on the list is Christopher Robin. God, that was actually a pretty good movie, actually. It was very sweet, to be honest with you. I kind of had a little bit of negative thoughts when I first saw the trailer. It was like, oh, it doesn't look bad, but I just hope they don't go all soft on us. But it has a straightforward message of the importance of family and what exactly it means to spend time with them, disregarding anything that could be serious, and always just keeping an eye out for yourself and for those around you. I think they did a good job with that, and I think they can expand the story a little bit if they wanted to do a sequel, but I think it just works also as a standalone film, so bravo with that. Next one is Crazy Rich Asians. Oh, man, has that one been the talk of the summer. I actually really wasn't too fond of it, again, with this film. When I first saw it, I was like, oh god, this is some boring film about rich people that most people won't really care about, not even thinking about the book that it was based on, and not even really delving in too much into the actual film. But I read the book and I watched the film after that, and I really liked it. It was fun, it was charming, it was pretty much a fun whole ride on its own, but it did have its moments to where it's like, okay, this is not your typical rich people kind of story where it's just, little problems that people who are rich kind of face. And while there's nothing wrong with that, I usually just see that typically always happen in, films about rich people. So I'm like, I thought it was going to be a repetitive thing with this, but it wasn't. It was a very good centered film about family and the importance of, culture and ideals. It wasn't really much of romance to say, but it did have its tidbits there, so highly recommend it. Next one is Alpha. Alpha is very good in its own right. It's not amazing per se, but it was impressive to see a film that you don't usually see nowadays being made. It's basically about the story of how a man's best friend became to be way back, I think, in like I think 300 BC or something like that. It was a very good film on its own visually. It showed a lot of the struggles of, I forgot the main character's name, but just the whole story itself centered around that idea about, trust between man and animal was very interesting to see. And it's not something I think we should continue to make films about, but it is something that was done pretty great in this film, and it didn't leave off anything as to like a sequel or anything like that. It's another good standalone film that serves its purpose as telling a story without any English, mind you, and just showing something interesting that I think most people didn't even think about making. So bravo for them. Next one is Black Klansman. I was psyched about this film when I first saw it, and God, I was right to be excited for it. It was a wonderful film, and it took things on a level that I didn't expect. Basically, the film is about a newly appointed officer uh, put into a pretty small kind of town, I guess you would say, and he kind of gets discriminated and pushed aside on his very first day, and he suddenly comes in and demands, I want to just do more serious stuff, more things that actually matter. And he does get that, and he takes on a case regarding the KKK, which I think was very cool. And mind you, this was all based on a true story. So, anyways, he does everything talking on the phone with the KKK, but another officer who is white, more looks kind of like what most of the KKK might look like, goes in and does his own thing, and pretends to be the guy who was always the black guy. Sorry, it's hard for me to describe it, but you can imagine the scenario of all that completely like secretive method of investigation with that, and I really, really, really liked it. I didn't expect it to end not on a high note or positive note, and it almost did, honestly. But the ending kind of just pushes on this whole montage of the world that we're facing today with, Trump, and how people are seeing that as like a symbol to become more openly like racist and just do things and become more active with the KKK, with again, fighting against immigrants and stuff like that, and all these different footages that they showed were from different protests and stuff like that, and it makes you really cry and kind of tear up. I almost did, but I was more like shocked that that's how they left the film. And I think Spike Lee did a pretty good job telling the story the way he did, but it's a little bit too much to explain here, but by all means check it out. It's probably going to be in the Oscars, I can imagine, especially with the way that it's portraying its message about racism in the past and in the future. So definitely check it out. And the last one is Mile 22. Okay, Mile 22, I've told my friends about this, and I've told just other random people who I've talked to about films, and I've shared this, and I've said this very clearly, and I I can't even begin to express how I feel. It is basically, to me, what Mission Impossible should have been. There was so much happening at once, but it wasn't happening quickly in a bad way. And Mile 22, if you guys haven't heard about it, it's basically a film about there's the kind of terrorism issues that happen nowadays, and this, I think, takes place on what was it? I think it was in Korea or something like that. I don't know, but let me look that up. But anyways, and this guy comes in, and he has information leading to oh god, I can't even remember it right now. Okay, there you go. I apologize for that. So I'll give you the summary or the synopsis of the film. So a CIA operative leads a small but lethal paramilitary team on an urgent and dangerous mission. They must transport a foreign intelligence asset from an American embassy in Southeast Asia to an airfield for extraction. The distance is of 22 miles, hence the name of the film. The operative and the soldiers soon find themselves in a race against time as the city's military, police, and street gangs are trying to close in and reclaim the asset. So yeah, basically the summary of that. Not the story itself is not what I mean as to like what Mission Impossible should have been, but the tone, the aggressive violence, and the way that things happen to characters, and the consequences of such a real hardcore mission that's kind of what I was hoping to see from Mission Impossible, because in Mission Impossible it kind of portrayed it to where it was like, this is serious, people are gonna die, things are gonna happen, and nothing like that happened, and I was so disappointed in that when I watched it. I'm so disappointed with it. I'm not even actually gonna review it quickly here, because I was just like, it was great. It had its good twists and turns, but no, it wasn't. It wasn't something I was happy with at the end. It was just so cliche for Mission Impossible, and I get it. It's Mission Impossible, but it's like, God, it was a little frustrating to see how it ended. I was like, it was right there, but the ending just kind of threw me off forever, and I'm like, and it's funny because when I went to go watch that, I was telling this friend of mine that I went with, and I said, basically, they agree with me too. I said, if you've seen one Mission Impossible, you've seen them all. So that's pretty much with that. But Mile 22, it's hardcore, it's gritty. There is death, there is consequence, and there is so many close calls, and the ending just has you like, your jaw is dropped to the floor, and I'm like, oh man. I was so excited and pumped up after the film that when I watched it afterwards, I couldn't stop freaking out as to how amazing it was. And I was like, yes, this is so good. You can call me crazy and be like, oh, it's just typical action film or whatever. It's not. Trust me. I've been watching films similar to this, crime, thriller, just action, espionage, whatever. And I have never seen a film like this to the point where I freak out after the movie. I'm just like, yes, oh my God, yes, yes, yes. It doesn't need a sequel. It's a good standalone film. If they make it a sequel or do something with that along the lines with that, it better be better than this one. Because, damn, this was just so good. So please, by all means, watch it. There's so much I can talk and praise about it, but I don't want to waste too much time on that. So with that in mind, I'll just end it there. Now, next segment we're going to go into, it's called Otakus versus the World, basically covering any sort of anime news and little tidbits of information here and there with releases, news in general, and people in my interest along the line. So first thing is, I didn't even know about this actually. There was a Pokemon Twitch stream going on, like right now as I speak. They are pretty much marathoning the whole freaking franchise of anime and film over the past years. I forgot how long Pokemon's been around with the anime at least, but they're showing through the week like one season of the film. I think I have the schedule for it, but they're showing the normal episodes in anime throughout the week. Then they're showing the movies on the weekends. For the week of August 27th was Indigo League. September 3rd was this past week was the Orange Islands. September 10th that week is the Johto Journeys. From September 7th is the Johto League Champions. From September 24th is Master Quest. October 1st is Advanced. October 8th is Advanced Challenge. October 15th is Advanced Battle. And October 22nd is Battle Frontier. So that's not all of them, but it's a good chunk of it, I'm pretty sure. So with that, and in the movies on the weekends, that's pretty cool. So if you're interested in that, go check it out. It's on Twitch's, I think, Twitch Presents Channel 2. Yeah. So it's happening right now, so you can drop everything and just go and binge on Pokemon for the whole 2 months. Next is JoJo Part 5. Okay, so they released a small teaser just showing Giorno and his stand. And then they also premiered a little bit of the concept art and the visual arts that they had for the anime, and then the release date, which was October 5th. 5th through the 7th, because it's premiering on different channels in Japan. Nothing yet for an American release date, but I imagine it's probably going to be like simuldub or whatever, so it's probably going to premiere on Crunchyroll or something like that. So pretty excited. Saw the teaser, liked it. Definitely, you can definitely tell they really took their time with it, and that's fine. I was really getting nervous that it was never going to happen, but I'm like, this is David Productions. They're going to have to do it. They've been on the JoJo train for the longest time, so I don't see why they had to start, or should I say stop, with part 4. So very, very happy with that. So check it out when it comes out in early October. Next thing, this is one that's a little bit pretty big, so at least to me, because it's a little, I guess you could say it's a little personally touching on me, because it was just like I didn't expect to hear that or even read that when I looked it up. And that is the incident with the Dragon Quest composer and the LGBTQ community. So what happened basically was that there was a show that the composer for Dragon Quest, which is Koichi Sugiyama, it's a culture channel basically in Japan. I think the program was called Hiizuru Kuni Yori, where they just talk about culture and politics, kind of. And the conversation went towards talking about the LGBTQ community in Japan. Now, there was another Democratic politician that said they called out the community by saying that they're unproductive, basically, because they do not provide children to the population. And I think connecting to that, I think Japan's population has kind of decreased in recent years because everybody's so focused on the careers that having children is kind of like the last thing you would focus on. So with that in mind, that politician didn't really see the community as of much importance. So hence that person calling them like unproductive to the community and to society. And the composer had actually spoken out and basically kind of also agreed, putting in, his 2 cents into that. And I mean, it's sad because the politician continues to go on and say that there's no need for the education of LGBT. There is no need to be concerned with the suicide rates among the community in Japan, which I wasn't even aware of, and that any policies that they're making is, I guess, the Japan's way of differentiating the community, and rather than actually it being honestly discriminating them. So I mean, that's just sad, honestly. And again, the composer Koichi, he actually continued and kind of agreed with most of what the politician was saying, and that's pretty sad, honestly, because just he kind of went on to saying that the lack of children that are born from homosexual couples is it's an important issue, and in Japan, especially because he suggested that Japan is more, I guess, more along the lines towards the idea that women are more empowering than in other countries, which I think is true, because there are plenty more women in different industries that actually do contribute, compared to us here in America. And not in that sense, meaning that there's just more women that are actually involved in those industries. And again, that's great. But I mean, to kind of disregard the community itself is just kind of bad. And I don't personally agree with him on that. It's kind of messed up, honestly, because going personally on my note, it's just bad. It is important to teach any and all children, really, what they're gonna have to come up and come across as they get older, be that anybody with any sexual orientation or any sense of diversity with different races and different people in the world. And if you don't start with the identity of those who see themselves as gay, lesbian, and whatnot, that's what creates more and more people nowadays to hate on those communities, in my opinion. And not having that education is just like, it makes people more infuriating in the ears. And it's like, well, I was never taught in this and that. Like, in the future, it's just kind of like, yeah, that's kind of how people are going to react, and people are going to just be negative from that point on. So honestly, it's just bad. And I think with Koichi's words, it wasn't hurtful to say, because I'm not too big of a Dragon Quest fan, but it did affect the fan base a bit, and they questioned their loyalty and their commitment to continue to support the franchise. And Square Enix kind of came out and said that they're in no way supporting what he said, and they don't support anybody, not anybody, but they don't support anything that he said, so they should not be viewed in the same way as Koichi has spoken out. Now, they didn't even mention it, I think, in their press statement, but their relationship with Koichi is kind of like questionable at this point, but they have not stated anything about that. So hopefully in the next month they will put out something about that, or not even next month, maybe within the next couple of months. But I think personally, with Square's position, they shouldn't see that as entirely not a negative thing, just something that they're going to be concerned about later on if Koichi were to talk about such things again. But Square, do what you can, do what you want, just be weary that this is just one person's opinion. It shouldn't affect your relationship with the person, but it will affect you to some degree. There will be people that will be against it and not support you, and that's fine. But on a business level, maybe it's best that you don't get rid of them. I don't know. But on a personal level, I don't know. It's just words, but it kind of just will show you where Koichi stands from this point on. Whether you support that or not, something will happen from that, or something won't. I don't know. But I hope nothing serious will come out of it. So, with that in mind, the next thing I wanted to talk about was there's a manga artist, actually. Going back to Japan, I should say. There's been a lot of different incidents that's been happening in Japan in terms of natural disasters and just different weather and crazy crap that's been going on for them, from earthquakes and that typhoon that they had recently. And a manga artist by the name of, Kenshi Hirokane. He, God, I actually don't remember what he did, but he, being a mangaka, was actually affected by the recent typhoon, and he wanted to find some way to, help those who were affected by it. So he partnered up with, I think, Asahi Shuzo. It's a brewery that makes, I think, sake, and he produced a small, not small, but like a sketch of his one of his characters from his recent works, and he basically organized to where everything, or at least some portion of the profits made from those sales of that design that he made for the liquor that Asahi produces, to go towards general relief for the public that were affected by the typhoons. Now, Asahi has not stated as to where specifically that, those portions and that profit will go to, but they want to separate it and kind of like share it with different organizations and different relief groups. And that's great, because I never thought I would actually hear a mangaka doing this, but he mostly did this because he did want to help, but he also was affected by it, which is, again, is understandable. But I was just surprised by this. This is pretty cool. You don't see or hear any mangakas that, you know, do this, and I think that's pretty cool. Because you look here in the States, and so many different celebrities and different people, like important people or politicians or whatnot. It's kind of rare for that second one, but mostly celebrities come out and help when different disasters happen here or throughout the world. So to see that in Japan is pretty cool. I don't know of any other like celebrities in Japan that do that or mangakas that do that, but from what I've seen so far, this is probably like the first time I've seen this. And Kenshi, he is currently working on, what was it? A manga called Division Chief Kosaku Shima. So that's pretty cool. It's more of a serious, I guess, down to earth kind of manga, which is great. But I've never heard of him before. But just the fact that he is a mangaka. Mangakas nowadays are so focused on their work and just that. Maybe a little more, I don't know specifically, but that's pretty much all I hear and hear people talk about. So to see this again, it's just wonderful. So I like it. Thank you, Kenshi. You are a man of great solitude and great gratitude to even try to help out those who are in need. So I praise you for that. Next thing is Ghost in the Shell. So I think I remember talking about this last month from Comic-Con, but oh yeah, it was just about the live action. Sorry, but it was announced back then that there was an anime that Production IG was actually going to create, and recently they, back then they announced that it was going to be just one season, but recently they had announced that it would actually be 2 seasons. So instead of getting 12 episodes, we're getting 24 episodes. And I was just surprised overall to hear that. So that's cool. Can't wait to see it. It's going to be, I think, not a retelling, but somewhat of a continuation. So it's kind of like their own thing with Ghost in the Shell. So I want to see where they go with that new series and what exactly they're going to base it on, or what's it going to continue from. Because there's not too much specific details about it, but it's just happening, and there's no release date currently. So that's good. But we'll hopefully hear more about that in the later months. And next thing is the Godzilla anime movie, the third one. There was a teaser released for it just recently as well. And Godzilla 3, it's called Godzilla the Planet Eater, which that sounds pretty badass on its own. I like that. That's cool. That's pretty crazy to imagine what they're going to show with that. But anyways, it's getting a release date, I believe, in October. Was it? Yeah. No, it's actually November. Oh, crap. That's oh, boy. But that's cool. So there's a small teaser out. It doesn't show too much. Just shows Godzilla kind of standing in a distance, but there's nothing really there that you can compare his size to. So maybe he's just that big. Maybe he's gonna get that big to become a planet eater. But Jesus Christ! Now I haven't seen the 2 other Godzilla anime films that are on Netflix, at least not yet. But I will get to that this month just because I'm excited to hear about this. But I've heard good things about it, and that's pretty cool, considering the fact that we're kind of on a Godzilla hype train with the with the new live action film King of the Monsters here in America, and these 2, or should I say 3, anime films that they've been producing since the first one, I think back in 2014. So very cool, like that. God, I can't wait to see what they do and what they show with that. I know I'm going to be impressed, though, but I should really get on watching the 2 other films first. If you guys are interested in that, you can watch the first 2 films on Netflix. I think they will be bringing in the 3rd one onto Netflix, but probably not until maybe January. So we'll see about that. And quickly, also, this was actually not on the list, but the live action Bleach movie also is going to be put onto Netflix next month in October. So, or not October. No, next month in September. I got my dates mixed up. So yeah, I think that's pretty cool. I didn't expect it to be brought on so quickly to the platform for Netflix. So, yay, I'll get to watch it. So that's awesome. But I hope it's not bad. Then the last thing, I thought this was great. Now, I've been watching, surprisingly, something from the current season in anime. It's a show called Cells at Work. It's a very, very fun show. I love it so much. And it's just interesting that there's an anime now about, how your body works internally. All the different cells, all the different parts, about, what happens and what your body does to keep you alive and keep you safe and healthy. So I was like, this is fun. And it's its own spin on comedy too. So I was like, great. But I'm not the only one who thinks so. There is a doctor who is part of the neuro-oncology department of the University School of Medicine in Atlanta, Georgia, by the name of Dr. Satoru Asuka. Now, Satoru, he is a fan, just like me and I imagine a bunch of other people too. But he greatly praised a recent episode of Cells at Work, episode 7, which was called The Cancer Cell. And basically the whole show, or the whole episode, is just centered around how the body handles those cancer cells and what occurs in your body while it's there. Basically, he was just like, and he quoted stating that, quote, even from a point of view of a cancer researcher, I think the content was very accurate. He praised the depiction of cancer in the episode as a representation of immune cells defending the body against cancer in its early stages. And he goes on to explain that in every person's body, so literally everybody that's listening to this, real immune cells fight and destroy cancer cells hundreds of times a day. So thank your body for that, because you would have cancer if it wasn't built that way or born that way. Therefore, cancer kind of occurs rarely in the body, and that makes sense. But it's become more frequent with elderly people in recent times, because there's there's a lot of normal cells having to be copied and a lot of different errors that occur in the body. So more cancer cells are developed and created. So again, for him to say that was actually a little bit surprising. I was like, oh, this is scary. I could be dying right now, but I won't know it. And so with that in mind, a lot of the immune cells that we have in our body are actually able to destroy cancer cells in its early stages. But again, in elderly people, it's becoming, there's not that much immunity towards it. So that's why some people always question, why do old people get cancer and all that? It's just their bodies like that, I guess, through different hormones and different changes in their body as we get older, which is scary, but it makes sense, I guess, from what he's saying. So he goes on to basically, he continues to kind of quote as to like how cancer kind of develops in the body and what's done about it. But just the fact that he was reading the manga, he says that it's great that Cells at Work is a thing in general, because whether you watch the anime, whether you watch the manga, the way that you retain the information about how your body works and what it does and all these different things and symptoms that you get from different diseases, it's so helpful, because rather than getting it from a textbook and seeing all these images that could be weird and creepy or whatever, this is fun and memorable, so people won't forget about it. And that's why he praises it. He really loves the way that it's taking the whole idea of being healthy on a more fun note, and people will enjoy it that way. And I could not agree anymore as to what he's saying. It's a great show. It's a great manga. I read the manga, but I love the show, and it's just fun, just fun. I love it. So please, watch it. You're probably gonna like it right away. It doesn't get anything too weird or creepy, but it does kind of portray your body in its own right, kind of freaky. Not freaky in a bad way, but just like they made things cute and they made things kind of squishy. Wow. Especially with the cell platelets. They're just cute. So yeah, watch it. I'm pretty sure you guys are gonna love it. So now that we're on the topic of anime, there was a recent thing that was happening, and oh my god. Where do I begin? Okay. I was not surprised by this, but at the same time was a little bit surprised. Doesn't make sense, but I'll get there. Crunchyroll recently had announced that they were making their own shows. They have a show called Anime Crimes Division, that's live action, but this is the first time that they've taken things on a more animated scale. And if you guys have heard about this, I'm pretty sure you all have at this point, at least if you're into anime. They are making their own show called High Guardian Spice. Basically, it's... Well, that's the point. I don't know really what it's about. The trailer that they released talking about the show, quote unquote, didn't give into too much detail as to what the show itself was about. Instead, it kind of pushed towards the idea that we're all about diversity, about women doing stuff in this industry like men will be doing. And it kind of just focuses on an agenda, let's put it that way. And while there's nothing wrong with that, and it's kind of hard to describe how the trailer kind of shows that and talks about it, but it does it so bluntly that I'm just like, okay, this was not what I was expecting, but okay. But people have been having negative thoughts about this, and I honestly couldn't, I could agree and disagree on some aspects. So allow me to go in further. So basically, women in the anime community is not new. It has been around for the longest time, in Japan especially. There's so many creators that are making manga, and are making shows, and are voice actresses, or voice actors, more than just, yeah. And women are morely involved in the industry in Japan as a whole, and that's great. Wow, like, hell, in America we hire men to play, little boys in different roles, and in Japan they hire women to do those voices because it's just easier. And it kind of makes more sense because, we're young as boys, so we have like this high-pitched voice, and it's just like, ah. But anyways, there's so much of that in Japan, and that's great. In America, we're getting there. We're slowly getting there, and I think we'll get there with time. And there's nothing wrong with women as a whole getting into this, industry and community. However, in the trailer, they are very open as to say we're very diverse. We're very, all our 50% of our cast is like women. 100% is women are in our writer's room, and I'm just like, okay. And in the video, you see these women. You see who they are, what they look like. And while there's nothing wrong with them and how they look like, that's not where I'm going. The fact that they said diverse is not what I saw in the video. There was like one guy and one, I think, trans male or trans woman that was there too. You can kind of tell, but I kind of had to like, you can kind of tell. It's just, that's what I'm looking at. I'm seeing here, and I even did some of the research on that one person, but it's all white women. It's just all white women, and that's not bad. Again, it's not bad, but it's bad in a way when you're just portraying it as diverse. And I've heard so many other people kind of point that out with the trailer and just as a whole. And when you go diverse means different people from different cultures, different races, ethnicities, however you want to word it. Just not white men and women. That's more commonly done here in America, but in other countries, I imagine it's kind of a mix, especially with Japan, because they're all Japanese. But they're all Japanese. That's the whole point. That's fine. But not everybody's the same. I've seen some Japanese people that are kind of like more tan, a little bit tan, not dark or anything like that. But there are a few people of different, I guess you could say color or aspect ratio, whatever you want to call it. But there are different people who are involved with the production of these shows. But in America, we're more diverse than Japan. We have more people who can do different things, more expressive, different backgrounds. That it's hard for me to describe this, but there are so many people that I've seen that do so many different stuff with these different shows and the industry itself, not anime, but like in different industries like music, movies, and all that stuff. And while women have kind of not been a big spotlight until recently, diversity to me is this. You have men and women and trans people, lesbians, gays, whatever. You have those people, everybody, in your production staff and crew from different backgrounds and different ethnicities. That's diversity, not what I saw. So kind of the only thing I complained about was that, honestly. But as a whole, I didn't have too much of a problem with what they were showing or what they were saying. It's just, you're promoting something and you're marketing something new, something fresh. I didn't learn a single thing about the show at all. Like, you asked me what that show was about, I'm just like, it was about women and diversity and some magic or something? I don't know. It just kind of looked like that. And when you look at the poster of it, it kind of looks like something Cartoon Network would kind of just say, hey, let's make that into a show or whatever. It doesn't even look like anime, because they kind of point that out, but I think they said something like, oh, it's a cartoon that was inspired by anime or something like that. But I don't know. I'm not too happy with how they brought it up, but I'm not entirely mad about it either. I do feel like we do need to have women and diversity in the industry, and we kind of do, honestly. Kind of. Not entirely, but we kind of do, with just different voice actors and different people on the production crew that we don't see. But with this, I'm going to give it a second chance and just see where they go with this. So I'm not going to complain about that whatsoever. So with that in mind, I don't hate it. I'm not going to fight it. Just let it be. If it drops and the ship sinks like crazy, it happened. But there's no one to blame. There's no one to pinpoint and say it's their fault, it's his fault, whatever. There's nothing wrong with that. Just when you say diversity, you have to mean it, and you have to really, really show it. That's not what I saw. End of story. Moving on. So, next segment we're going to go to, and I'm going to run through this kind of quickly. Segment is called Film Rewind. So, basically, this is all about film, movies, and people with it. So, quickly, we're going to jump into some news. A Quiet Place 2. Loved A Quiet Place in general. It was great. It was beautiful. It was so fantastic, especially for a horror film nowadays. Nowadays, horror films are just about jump scares and stuff like that. I don't really see anything original or anything pretty scary and atmospherically effective, except for Hereditary. But A Quiet Place was a great film, and I loved it. So there's a sequel coming out. I didn't really think there was needed. Honestly, I don't think it's necessary, but if they do, I hope that they do something fun with it, and I hope that John Krasinski directs it and writes it and just does what he does with this first one again for the sequel. So, good luck. Next one, Steven Spielberg is going to produce West Side Story. Or he's going to direct it, I'm sorry. And it's been a passion project of his for the longest time, and I'm just not too excited about it. There's no need to make West Side Story again. But if that's what he's wanted to do for like the past couple of years, because I think he's mentioned it before, but he's just been so busy with other stuff that he never got around to working on it. He's supposed to do Indiana Jones 5. Kind of thought that was going to be done too with the last one. But okay. Not going to complain, but West Side Story it's a great film. It's fun. It's pretty cool. And it was in the Oscars, so I was like, it's already won stuff. Why do we need this again? It's like we're remaking Gone with the Wind, which I hope never happens because, damn, that's going to be a long freaking movie. So, yeah, not too excited about that, but we'll see what he does with it. Next one, bit is Matt Smith he was brought into Star Wars 9. So he was casted into the next and final part of the trilogy that we have going on right now. There is nothing specifically as to like what he's going to be involved with, like in terms of character or anything around that. We know nothing about that, obviously, but just know that he's in it. It's great because I like Matt Smith. He's awesome. He played Doctor Who, and I really wanted him to see doing bigger stuff ever since then, and he has. He did that one role in Terminator. Didn't think he shined in that film because I think he had more parts, but he was expected to show more parts in the next Terminator movie that they had. But now we're getting another reboot on that. So Star Wars, give this guy a great role and some more scenes. I want to see this guy do stuff that he had done in Doctor Who. Not charismatically, but just as an actor. Let him shine. Okay. Next bit. We are getting a remake for Big Trouble in Little China. And it's not like a remake. It's more of a soft reboot. And this movie is with Dwayne Johnson. Nothing wrong with that, honestly. He's not playing the same character from the first film. It's morely going to be like a continuation in the same wacky universe as Little China. So cool. Not excited for it, honestly, until I see it. But he's been doing this kind of stuff with different films, like with Jumanji, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. Do your thing, man. So we'll just see what he does. But I'm not too excited about it. I like the first film. I hope the second one's just as good. Or a little bit, better. But no high expectations. Next one. This surprised me extremely when I found out. And I'm so excited that Guillermo del Toro is actually taking on this project and idea. I didn't even know he was a fan of this. But, so when I was a kid, I used to pick up this book all the time from my school library, and I used to read it, and it had wacky, crazy images that would freak me and my classmates out like crazy. And I was like, oh my God, this is going to look weird, this is going to be crazy. And I never thought for my entire life that I would ever hear that book would be made into a live-action movie. The book is called Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. If you guys have heard of it, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, basically it's kind of like these short stories about really weird, crazy, like Lovecraftian kind of horror stories for kids, mind you. But the weird part wasn't just the stories. It was just the imagery as well that they would use. And they would portray it in these really, really like, black and white illustrations of like crazy dried up people or some really big weird crazy crap. And if you know Junji Ito, basically it's that, but like an American version of it. Oh, it's so creepy, really weird. I didn't even think about it until I read it. I was like, oh my God, that brings up flashbacks like crazy. So kind of got freaked out by it, but I really am excited to hear that Guillermo del Toro is doing a film on that. I am going to go nuts when this movie comes out, and I hope it looks as creepy and nasty and crazy as it did when I was a kid. So, all the best for that project. Next thing, this kind of is gonna be a little long. Didn't want it to be, and I can already tell this was gonna be a long one, so I apologize for the long podcast. But anyways, So there's been talk about a new category that the Oscars has kind of pushed out, and I think it was called the popular film category. No, I don't care what anybody says about that. Completely unnecessary, and it's just gonna create more, more, more controversy at the Oscars than ever before with anything else so far. It's just gonna be horrible. Don't do it, please. Just don't. I mean, It's not gonna change anything by me saying that, but still, it's just like it's a bad decision. I don't care what anybody says. If that was the case, La La Land would win every year. Trust me. And I'm not too crazy about that film, but whatever. So, not in favor of that popular film thing. It's just weird. But anyways, connecting to that, because this was mentioned along the lines with another topic, which is Black Panther at the Oscars. So it's not officially nominated for an Oscar. However, there has been a lot of talk, and there is a strategist who was being asked and told to kind of push Black Panther into the spotlight to kind of get it nominated at least. Because if it does, it would be the first superhero film to do so. Set aside for The Dark Knight with Heath Ledger and the Joker. But since then, there hasn't really been anything because it's kind of been overlooked. Like, superhero movies aren't really like meant for the Oscars. It's just like, it's not our thing, whatever, we don't care. So having Black Panther being put this year would be interesting, but I will tell you this. Personally, I don't really see it as a film that should be nominated for an Oscar. It is a great film culturally, and it is impacting, but I don't know. I can't wrap my head around it being part of the Oscars, honestly. I thought it would way before I first saw it, and I really thought, okay, it can be. It would be great. But after watching it a few times, emotionally, yes, I can see where people are coming from with this. And it would be great. Honestly, it would be. But it's kind of hard to kind of explain. And it's not negative, really. It's not really a negative thing that I'm concerned about or anything negative I want to say. It's just, I don't know. I feel like, Black Panther, yes, itself can be part of the Oscars, but I'm more concerned about the whole nomination process as to, like, will it be picked? That's kind of where I'm more concerned. And I really don't think it will be. I hope it does, but I really don't think it will be. Just because of the fact that when I watch it, I don't think Oscar-nominated film. I think this is going to change how films are going to be made as a whole in the industry. A movie like that can be put out there and said, yes, this is something Oscar-worthy. But, I mean, no offense to what I was saying earlier about Guillermo del Toro. I love the guy, he's great, and I hope he does well with his new project. But his film, The Shape of Water, was a great film. But comparing that to Black Panther on its own right, it's like science fiction or whatever, it is possible. And I like it. And it can be done. But there's so much of a different tone and feel for it. I watched Black Panther feeling inspired and thinking, this is going to change Hollywood forever. If it becomes an Oscar nomination and it wins Best Picture, it will do more so. But alone, it has done quite enough, honestly. So being part of the Oscars, we'll give it more credit. If it won't be, it's kind of done something. And we just need to learn from whatever was done with that film and bring it on to more films from this point on. That's all I'm going to say about it. But if it does, great. If it doesn't, can't fight what people are going to choose with the Academy. So, the last thing I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to go through this as quickly as I can, but God, this is something I talked about last month with James Gunn. So, James Gunn has been going through some controversial, crazy crap about some old tweets that he had made, and they got resurfaced, and he was basically let go out of Guardians 3. So, there was some talk early in the month about him potentially being brought back into the film, and ultimately decided not to bring him back. So Disney said, go away. We don't need you. This is going to be bad enough for reputation. Be gone. The Guardians cast had made a letter, all basically putting out their heart and saying that, we would really, really like it if you guys did bring him back. Like, it won't be the same without him. And he means so much to us. And whatever he's done in the past, it's in the past. And while they don't support what he said, he himself as a man and as a director in these films, he's treated them so well. And they've grown with him. So to let that go and to kind of just drop that all of a sudden, it's just kind of sad. So they all came together and just wrote this letter and put it out in the public for everybody to read. And you could just kind of tell that, yes, he has made an impact on their lives altogether. So for them to lose him would be very heartbreaking. Now, again, obviously he's not going to come back, which is sad enough on its own. But one person, I think I mentioned this, no, I don't think I did. But one person spoke out like crazy about this whole thing, and it was somebody I wasn't expecting to hear. And that was Dave Bautista, who plays Drax in Guardians of the Galaxy. He is very vocal about the whole situation, and for more personal reason as well, because James Gunn took a chance on Dave Bautista to do this role in the first place. Before he got the role for Drax, Dave was actually kind of struggling to find work and do stuff, and he had people that did believe him, but nobody believed in him like James Gunn did. So he saw it as a wonderful opportunity for him as an actor, for him as a person. It really did impact his life as a whole, and I didn't expect to actually hear that from him at all, and he was just so vocal about that. But anyways, he's been kind of against Disney with their decision on that, and he still is. But while he is going to be in Avengers 4, his future beyond that is kind of wonky. We don't know what's going to happen to him, and we don't know what's going to occur from this point on whatsoever. So, I mean, I feel for the guy, and I understand where he's coming from. And I just feel a little bad. I know he means well, and I know he really wants Disney to change, but they're just not. They've already made the decision. Now they're looking for a new director, so that's kind of going to put Guardians 3 on hold. But I think they are going to use James Gunn's script for Guardians 3. If not, it's going to be a bit of a problem. And Dave also said that it's the fate of these characters is also kind of be a bit of a change for Avengers 4, and that this decision that Disney made has affected the future of the franchise in a way. And that makes sense also, especially from a fan standpoint like myself. I can understand what he means by that, and I understand wholeheartedly why this is a problem. So, I mean, Disney has its own reputation to kind of uphold. I'm not going to really fight that because you really can't. But Dave, I hope you don't leave this franchise. I hope you stay. I hope you do your best to just continue playing Drax until ultimately they're just like, cut the cord, he's gone, whatever. Because he also recently spoke out about, I think, he wanted to have like his own Drax film because there was so much to tell about his character, and I think that's true. There is a lot to tell about his character in his past, and it's kind of been overlooked with everything that's been happening at the MCU. So it's obviously not going to happen, but if they do, and even if they don't use him, he still wants to see it come into fruition, and I think that's great. He's been a good sport about everything else besides Disney's decision. So, bravo for him. He's taking this wholeheartedly. He's not being aggressive or completely like against everything, and he is obliging to his contract, which is fine. But I hope this does get resolved one way or another to where everybody just is kind of happy about it. So, I mean, and even if they don't bring James Gunn to direct, I hope they bring him in to produce Guardians at least. But that's probably never going to happen. So, We'll see. We'll see. Anyways, so this is right near the end of the podcast. However, I did have a special guest that I was actually able to get some feedback on a few questions I had for her. And that special guest of mine is Sarah. So I did record this beforehand. So excuse my wacky introduction and the conversation we had. This was at a separate location from what you're hearing from now. And with that being said, I will switch it over and finish it off with that. Yeah.
So hello everybody, it is Access Arcadia here, and today we are starting off the second podcast that I've been doing. This is episode 2, and today I actually have a special guest here to talk about some anime and stuff like that. I'm going to ask her just a series of questions and things that I want people's perspectives on, and you just come on and say whatever you want to say. It doesn't really hurt anybody. And again, disclaimer for everybody who is listening, this is a personal opinion on everything that I will discuss here, mine's included, and so is my guest. Anything that we do talk about or say is strictly on our own minds and set ideals for whatever it is that we discuss. If you have a problem with that or an issue with that, it is fine to voice your opinion, but
do it in a respectful way.
Thank you.
Because if you expect us to respect you, then you better do it back to us.
Couldn't have said it any better. All right, so let's just get this thing started. So why don't you introduce yourself, my friend?
Hi, I'm Sarah. I need help. I don't know what to do. All right, fucking go for it.
All right, Sarah, how are you today? You doing good?
Yeah, I'm doing good.
Yeah?
I mean, you are in my room.
No, okay. I just want to make sure that you're okay.
With my dogs.
You're right. Okay. Just for the sake of this, kind of just make sure you speak up a little louder.
They can't. I think you could hear.
Yeah, just a little bit, because it's like, just talk louder. So.
Okay.
All right. So, first question I have for you is, what is your opinion on shonen anime, and what do you think should be changed from the norm after the big three, such as Naruto, Bleach, and One Piece, you know?
Well, first of all, with Naruto and Bleach, they shouldn't be getting with girls getting that fucked up, I got a haircut to the girl I didn't even know for the longest, so fuck it. They have that ugly... Naruto and Ichigo have the same haircut, and I think whenever guys get that haircut, it means that I really married some girl that I don't know, when I literally had another girl right in front of my face. They literally have that ugly fucking haircut.
Oh god. Yo, I didn't even notice that until you pointed that out right now. They have spiky hair that they don't know what the hell they're doing.
Yeah, they chop it all off.
With Naruto, I think the last Naruto movie where he just gets like this big buzz cut. And
no, but when it came to the last chapter of Naruto, he had that ugly haircut, and I'm like, I think that's a new thing now. I mean, it's hard to make a nice, good shonen. It's hard.
It is hard, especially with the way that people's standards are. But there are some that are making changes that I know you haven't seen them, but like My Hero Academia is kind of changing it up a little bit. Macadamia nuts. But My Hero is doing that. I wouldn't say Black Clover is really.
I heard about Black Clover.
It's basically Naruto but with wizards, so like Naruto and Fairy Tail.
A lot of people are hating on that.
I'm not a big fan of it either, but I mean that's fine for me. I don't feel like I'm missing much, honestly. But aside from that, the more recent current shonen anime such as those, they're kind of making small changes in how they approach like the typical power scaling kind of thing, where it's like every time there's a boss or a big bad in the series, the next one has to be even more worse or like more powerful. Like, what do you think about that? Should that be changed in a certain way, or how should that be approached nowadays?
I mean, I kind of think it's like the big boss. Like, that's how in comic books too, you're always gonna have like a big boss that's gonna be so hard to defeat, and then I think that motivates the character to become more powerful. That's gonna be your typical, no matter what.
Right.
That's always gonna be your typical storyline. Guy or girl meeting some basic ass villains, and they defeat them, or sometimes they have their struggles, but then out of nowhere their powers come out.
Exactly.
And then they defeat them. But then there's always gonna be one villain that pops out of nowhere and says, "Hello there, I'm this and this, and I'm gonna kick your ass, whatever." And then they end up kicking the main guy's or girl's ass, and then they're like, "I can't believe this guy defeated me.
So
I must get stronger."
That's the norm. But what would you change about that if you could try currently?
I could change. I mean, first of all, I'm a shitty writer.
It doesn't matter, but like any
So-
little tad bit thing that you could change about it, what would it be?
That's a hard question, but I'll try to think about it. Let's get back into it.
Okay, I'll go back with you on that later. Okay, well, I'll tell you one thing that I want to change with the genre itself, and I mean this could go for any genre really.
Let's see if I agree with you.
But with the main battle shonen genre, I have been craving this for the longest time, and only one has really done this, and it's called JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. They've done it, and it worked well. I want a female protagonist taking the lead on a shonen battle anime like Bleach or Naruto or something around that line. And there isn't. I mean, there kind of is nowadays. Like with My Hero Academia, there's like sub characters that do that. But I want like the main character not to be a dude. Let it be a chick, and let her be the one to like, change up the way that battles are approached. Like
there are a few animes that have done that, but they tend to mostly. I mean, me as a female, they tend to sexualize that shit so damn much.
Okay, well, yeah, that's true.
Which kind of sucks. And then they always have to make the girl fall in love with the guy. Why can't it be her being a badass bitch without having a love interest? Love interests are cool. But again, you already know how I feel about romance. You have to stop forcing people who don't belong with each other in it. So I would love to have more females get attention when it comes to anime like shonen, because there's rarely any, unless we're missing something, because there's 1,000 fucking animes out there. But I do agree that they should have a lead female that is badass, that actually could relate to us girls and even guys,
right?
Because you don't need to be a girl to relate to a girl. You could be
No.
like, I could relate to fucking Naruto.
Exactly.
I could relate to Edward Elric.
Or to Spike,
Yeah,
It's like,
I bet you could relate to Sakura, because she literally started from nothing.
Exactly.
And then she built her way up. She didn't have no fucking jutsu or any
Right.
genetic whatever.
But make a character like that and treat it as the protagonist,
Yeah.
not as like a side character or anything like that.
And then let a girl have a main male villain, not a female villain. Instead of having girls fight girls, have a girl kick a guy's ass too. They probably have that too, but we're probably missing out.
That's the other thing I was gonna go with towards, was that I wanted like a villain that would come up in a series to be a female, not a male like antagonist. Like with Naruto, they did a good job having Kaguya be like that big bad, all powerful kind of thing. But that's like at the end. I want it to be like mixed in, like a separate villain doing this, or like hell, even do this twist where it's like the love interest of this main protagonist that's a dude or whatever. She starts like understanding like what the main character is doing, like why he has to do it. But then at some point she sees him doing something and she doesn't like that. And over time she starts to like the guy less, and in turn into a villain. And then boom, there's your antagonist for that arc, and it's like, what? Like that would be cool, honestly.
It's the same thing. Like if we're gonna go to some shit like that, like let's do Attack on Titans where they actually have male. Like I'm not a fan of that anime, but I am a fan of the manga.
Right.
If we're gonna go to that, Mikasa, we all know Mikasa in the manga as the sister who cares and gives a shit about Eren. But Eren, if you read the manga, spoiler alert, he legit does some bad shit, and then it made Mikasa realize that, dude, I love my brother so much, I would try to support him, but he's going insane. And then we don't know if their family fucking relationship is gonna last long. So
Exactly.
sorry if you guys ship Mikasa and Eren, but I see them as family. I hope you guys respect that. And sorry for the spoiler alerts, but if you're a manga reader like myself and you see how Mikasa is towards Eren now, she's being extra careful. She still loves him. She loves her little brother.
But she's being cautious
But
about
she's
it.
being cautious, and everybody knows that.
Right.
But it's like examples like that. Like they should have more shit like that.
Or in that case, it's like with time the story will evolve to.
But then again,
other things.
If you want more female roles, you have to do it for yourself. You can't. It seems like nowadays people are just trying to bring like females roles so they won't recognize them as sexist. You know?
Right.
Are you doing it for yourself or you're doing it to get attention? Like, which is it? That's
Right.
what bothers me about real life, especially coming from a girl as myself. Like, are you doing it to actually show people that girls do this and that, or you don't give a shit and you actually give a shit about just the audience? Like, oh, I just want them to come watch my shit. Like, what are you doing it for? I know you, John. I know you're doing it for yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
But
I'm in general with the genre. That's kind
Yeah.
of what I want to see change, and it's just one of the big things that I wish will come out in the next couple of years. But who knows?
like, I feel if girls are hearing this, I feel sorry. My mistake if you feel like I accept that in a really wrong way. I'm still trying to practice on how I word things.
So the next question I want to ask you was, where exactly do you feel anime adaptations, like live action adaptations, where should they pick up ideas from? Like mainstream animes, kind of like everybody knows Naruto, everybody knows like Cowboy Bebop and all that stuff from that side of the spectrum, or from like smaller projects, smaller shows like the one that you and I both love and care about, Get Backers. That's a good example, and I could really see that becoming live action. You know,
I would love to see Evangelion's live action. I think it would be badass, but
it's already happening. It's called Pacific Rim.
I haven't seen Pacific Rim.
It's kind of that, except
Okay.
it's not with one person. It's with two people, and it's not as dark.
Okay, I would love to see that happening a lot.
Okay,
I do not want to see no fucking Naruto happening because it would be bad.
it's already happening in Japan. But go on.
Are you kidding
I'm
me?
not kidding. I'm serious. They're already doing it, and One Piece, and Bleach.
Okay,
man.
One Piece I would understand.
It's a lot, man. It's a lot of
I
material,
know.
but they're already doing Naruto. They're already doing
You
Bleach.
think fucking Naruto my favorite anime? Oh my god.
They're doing already a couple of them already, and some of them are like so like.
I know they're doing Bleach because they're gonna put it on. I know they did Full Metal, and I heard that didn't turn out well.
It's horrible. I've watched it. It's just it's sad. It's
And
not as
you're-
bad as Death Note, but
Okay.
it does kind of.
Johannes, fuck you, but Death Note was bad.
I'm editing that out.
No, he knows I'm just fucking with him.
I know.
Don't edit it out. He knows.
But yeah, no, okay, but like I said, in that idea, should they, tackle ideas or shows or stories that are like big and huge like Naruto and One Piece, or should they go into the smaller like story spectrum like?
I think they should do
know,
smaller first so they could get used to it, because when they do big anime like again, let's bring up Attack on Titans, it was trash. They fucked up his whole storyline. It was bad. They did Dragon Ball, which was bad.
Obviously.
They did they start off with big animes that are popular, and they know deep down that it's not gonna turn out well. Unless Ghost in the Shell, it was a small unless you were born in like
It's pretty big, honestly. It's pretty big.
It's pretty big still.
It is still pretty big,
No,
but
I used to I remember watching.
it's pretty big because not only the movie but the Ghost in Shell Rise, that show that kind of made it more popular. And then there's also the sequel of Ghost in the Shell that came out I think maybe a few years afterwards. But it's popular,
Yeah.
and that's why it exists.
And I heard that the one that Scarlett Johansson did was actually the same thing as it was.
Mm-mm.
I heard that's what I heard.
I
I didn't watch it,
no,
so you can't blame me.
no, I know I'm not, but
Edit that out too.
I watched Ghost in the Shell, and because I was like really excited for it, I'm like, oh, it looks good, it looks great, and the story's not too bad. But then they did something that I hated for most stories to even do as a plot point. They made her question her identity.
Yeah, when she
as a
already knew
robot,
what
and
she...
I'm like, she doesn't do that in the film. And I mean, yeah, I don't want a direct adaptation of the film into live action. That's kind of boring. But I would want them to do something else creative, and that wasn't really creative in my opinion. It was like, okay, you just kind of put in this little 10 cents in there. I mean, visually it was great, and I think
I heard graphics was good.
it was great. It looked amazing. It looked very true to the actual original like film and the show itself. But the story was just kind of like, I didn't really care about it too much. I was like, this sucks. But
I think they should really start off with small animes.
they should. They
like
really
the
should.
Get Backers, nobody knows about
Nobody
that.
knows about
Nobody
Get Backers.
knows about
No.
the anime.
And if you do, thank you.
Yeah.
God, that's such a good show.
And
man.
it's a good manga too.
Exactly.
If you like old school anime, I would suggest that one.
Get Backers, yeah, go watch it. Yeah,
When
it's on Amazon.
When
Go
you
check
and
it
I
out.
went to the beach, got our fucking skin burned at the ocean, we
Yeah,
were talking about.
That's exactly what we were talking
and
about.
then
yeah.
when I heard that you like get the Get Backers, I'm like, holy shit, nobody knew about
Nobody
it.
knows about that.
Yeah.
Or this other one, I'm pretty sure you don't know, and it's based off a PS2 game. It's called Uteware Reru Mono. Exactly, you don't know what it is.
Explain the story, cause
Basically, there's this girl. It's kind of like very like old, I guess, like I want to say feudal Japan kind of, but it doesn't take place in anything historically, but it has that setting. Anyways, she finds this guy in the forest after some big like monster approaches her, and it's kind of like all shadowy kind of, but she finds this monster, and I guess she kind of like makes a deal with him or something like that, something around that line, and the next morning there's this guy with the mask on, and he can't take off the mask, nor does he know who he is. So he gets involved with the town's like little issues and problems, and it slowly builds up to the point where he ends up becoming a leader of this whole revolutionary
No, I've
town and
never-
structure. Yeah,
I probably will see it.
it's a very good show, and I binged watched it like crazy because it turns into this very like old like drama and all this like supernatural like things about this guy and his mask into something sci-fi near the end, and I'm like, yo, that was a good twist right there. But I won't spoil it, but it is something worth watching, and I think like stuff like that should be kind of made into a film because it's very short and precise,
They should. I think they should really start off with small films, not big films. Especially like I know that they're only doing it to catch the audience attention. That's what it is now.
Right.
So in my opinion, they
Start
should-
off small.
Like what? Yeah. Start off small. Don't start off big because you already know if you don't know a good storyline, and then you're gonna fit all these characters, and you know it's gonna go to shit. Then why do it? Like
Right.
with the Death Note. I don't know what the fuck Netflix was thinking about.
You mean I don't know what the writers were thinking, actually.
True,
It
true.
wasn't Netflix's fault. It's just the writers'
I don't know
fault.
why the fuck Netflix accepted it though.
I don't know. And then there's a sequel. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, I know. Johannes got excited. Fuck you again, Johannes.
I hate that, but oh well, we'll see what happens. Okay, and then I guess my last question for you for this small segment. What do you feel, or do you feel it's possible that with all of these new anime shows coming out and all these different films coming out, do you think it's possible that if they were to approach some of these shows as like a live action, like adaptations, do you think it's possible for them to create a connected universe? Because that's a bit of a trend nowadays in Hollywood, and it's becoming more a thing because of Marvel and their success. So people are like, oh, let's do this and that. Because I always thought that if you were going to connect anime like films together, because it is possible, but the way that they do that would have to be very original and sort of make it your own thing. But do you think that they should approach that idea, or how do you think they shouldn't? What do you think about that?
Like you said, it's hard with the whole Marvel thing. Like you got the comic book, so it flows together. The comic book, like I know it's not the same as the comic book, but the thing is, the way that Marvel was made it so beautifully into Infinity War,
Mhm.
it was because they connected everything.
Right.
So and plus they had the comic book. They just had to switch up the story. Like they switched it up a bit. Yeah, you see here and there like some comic book like
References,
comparison and
yeah.
all that. But they still made up the storyline really beautifully. But there's gonna be some that are shit.
Exactly.
Like what? I heard Iron Man 3 was shit.
And Thor: The Dark World.
Yeah. Thor, but in my opinion, Thor Ragnarok is the best
Of
Marvel
course,
movie
yeah.
ever.
It's one of the best ones.
It's always gonna be my favorite one. Infinity War is cool, but it's hard, dude.
It is
Especially
hard.
since Marvel and probably maybe DC is gonna do something, but
Oh,
DC
yeah.
is lagging, so let's not talk about them. Sorry, DC fans.
I hope that they have a second wind with Shazam and Aquaman. 'cause
I
those,
really hope.
those look fun, and I think that's what they need right now. They don't need to be so serious. They need to just be a little fun.
Yeah,
That's
it's-
fine. But anyways, moving on.
I mean, but DC's dark. I mean, there's gonna be some moments.
You
but
can, but not every single fucking second
No,
of
I
the
know.
film. Like, Jesus.
I think Wonder Woman was cool.
That was a good one, too.
That I think what got to me was that one scene. We're getting off topic.
We are. That's what I'm
Okay.
saying. Like, well, that's
Okay.
another time.
Okay.
But I'm saying with, like, anime, like, do you think it's possible that they could do a connected universe? Or is it
They
going to be
probably
really
can.
hard?
Like what? Like fucking Dragon Ball Z, Naruto, One Piece, like all the OG anime.
Not really.
Imagine.
But it could work. But I was thinking more, like, on a science fiction kind of level kind of thing. Because that would be the only way it would make sense.
Well, I think this science fiction. You could do anything with science fiction.
course.
So I believe you can,
Okay.
and I believe because with science, there's gonna be truth, but there is a
Hey.
hypothesis. So it's like, I like science. I don't want to get into it, but it's like you could flow anything with science. You just have to make it make sense.
Right.
So you could do that in anime, or
It'd just
comic.
be very hard. Because I have an idea myself, but I won't share that because
That's right. Yeah.
it's hard. It's private. But I had that idea in mind, and I was like, let me just see if people think in general, like, is it possible? And when you guys listen, you guys can put your word into it. Like, is it possible for anime films, live action anime films, to be or to have a connected universe, and how would you do it? I want to know that, at least in your opinion, guys.
It is.
Yeah.
If Marvel could do it, I think anybody else could do it.
yeah.
But you have to know how to make it flow.
You have to do it right.
Yeah, and make up your own storyline.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, is there anything you wanted to kind of ask my opinion about before I finish with you in this segment, or are you done?
Oh, I'm biting my nails.
All right. Well, I mean, I guess that's a no. I'll take that as a no. Well, thank you so much, Sarah. I appreciate you coming out and talking to me about this. And I know I do seriously.
You keep
No, I know. I'm sorry.
I know.
I can't do
Like
that.
you're in my room.
Okay, I'm sorry. I meant to say thank you for having me come out to you.
And then this was random too.
This was pretty random. Yeah, this wasn't really planned, but next time I have somebody on the show, I will talk about it and I will schedule this. Yes, I'm talking to you, Christian. Don't worry.
Johannes.
Your time
fuck
will
you.
come. Your time will come. If you guys don't know who that is, don't worry about it. You will meet him eventually. But
Yeah.
all right. Well, again, thank you so much for taking your time to talk to me about this. It wasn't a lot, but still, it's just something I wanted to get some opinion on, especially aside from my own. So.
And again, if you don't agree, that's fine. It's always gonna be cool, but just don't bash.
Right. Please be respectful of our opinions.
Yeah.
And that'll do it for my guest on this show for today. Say bye.
Laters, adios.
So thank you for listening to my special guest. I'm gonna have more of these different people coming in and talking about, different questions I have and different topics we're gonna get into. This is more of a kind of a test, and Sarah will probably return to do another episode. But for now, we'll just have to wait and see who I invite next time. Anyways, thank you so much for listening to Arcadia 1. I appreciate the support I've been getting a little bit from the first episode, and I will continue to do my best to bring more and more to you every time one of these comes out. It's kind of been difficult to manage this monthly, but I'm going to try to do this more often. So this may become weekly, but no guarantees. Anyways, thank you again for tuning in to Arcadia 1. This is Access Arcadia, signing out. Later.